Market Atlas Retirement Planning Series. Everyone dreams of a stress-free retirement. But how much money do you really need to make that dream come true? Today on Market Atlas, we'll explore the key factors that determine your retirement number and why no two plans are ever the same. Plus, we'll talk about where to live and how to position your investments once you're retired. Stick around, because we'll be digging deeper into each of these topics in upcoming videos. Location, location, location. First up, where you live impacts everything, from daily cost to taxes to healthcare availability. Retiring in a major city like San Francisco demands a much bigger budget than retiring in smaller towns or lower-cost states like Florida or Tennessee. When picking a retirement location, think about affordability, healthcare access, community, activities, and even climate. Remember, a dream location with high costs might not leave much room for the lifestyle you want. When deciding on location, do you want to stay near family and current friends, or are you flexible to consider different states or even different countries? Various countries, such as Italy, have rolled out incentives to lure in retirees. Other countries, for example in Southeast Asia, simply have much lower costs than countries like the US and Canada. If you are willing to move to another country, you might be able to live on as little as $1,500 per month or perhaps even a little less. To retire in an expensive city in the US can easily cost $10,000 per month, depending on your housing situation. Personal relationship status will likely impact your mobility and your potential locations. If you have a partner, a move is something to be discussed and agreed upon. Whereas, if you are single, maybe a move not only allows you to reduce costs, but also might open up relationship options you wouldn't have in your current location. Family dependence. Are you planning to support children, grandchildren, or even aging parents? These expenses can accumulate quickly, impacting how much money you'll need over time. In the US, college tuition can be expensive, not to mention student housing. If you have children, what are your obligations with respect to grown children? Lifestyle choices. Will you live simply, or do you plan on traveling the world and dining out often? Retirement lifestyle choices play a massive role in how big your nest egg needs to be. Ironically, if you live in an expensive Western city and you like to dine out, you might not be increasing your expenses much if you travel to lower-cost countries and dine out there instead. Some retirees consider ocean cruising for their retirement. That type of lifestyle can actually be much cheaper if you are able to reduce your Western housing costs as a result. Healthcare costs. Healthcare is a major expense, even with Medicare. You'll need to plan for out-of-pocket costs like dental, vision, prescription drugs, and possible long-term care. Also, will your retirement location have quality health care when needed? Many retirees move based on costs or climate, but don't consider how important access to quality health care is. Access to quick quality care can be the difference between life and death in a time of crisis. Housing. Do you own your house free and clear? Great. That means lower monthly expenses. Or perhaps you own a house with a very favorable mortgage rate? If you own a house, property tax can be a substantial amount, especially in some places. Regardless if you own or rent, housing can make or break your retirement budget and is often the largest item on the expense list. Age at retirement. The earlier you retire, the longer your money needs to last. A 55-year-old retiree needs to fund potentially 35 to 40 years of living expenses. Social Security payouts and portfolio withdrawals must be carefully planned. The average lifespan for a man in the U.S. in 2024 was approximately 76 years, and the average lifespan for a woman was approximately 81 years. Of course, Those are just averages. Some advisors estimate that you should have approximately 10 times your annual salary saved when you retire in the U.S. at full retirement age of 67. If you retire earlier, you would need more than that, unless you reduce your costs significantly. If you want to travel in retirement, perhaps it is better to retire earlier in order to have the health and energy to do that. Of course, you will need to estimate your cash flows. This can be done by hiring a financial planner to calculate your income needs or done on your own. Look at all of the sources of income, including passive and active income. In the U.S., Social Security doesn't start until 62, but is then paid out at a lower rate because it is considered an early withdrawal. Medicare health coverage doesn't start until age 65. If you decide to retire on the early side, perhaps you can have a side gig that can provide some extra income. Learning something new that you can do remotely will allow you to have flexibility and supplemental income for years to come. This type of arrangement changes the look of retirement and can allow retirees to stay active. Remember that Social Security can be reduced depending on how much income you earn on the side. The 80% rule in retirement planning suggests that retirees will need about 80% of their pre-retirement income to maintain their desired lifestyle. However, if you travel or increase expenses for other activities, those could more than offset expenses that decline in retirement, such as commuting costs. Whatever you decide, consider that the longer you wait, the less active retirement years you will have. Of course, the numbers need to add up and are different for each person and couple. Also, married couples will have different considerations than single people, especially if one person continues to work and the other retires. Positioning your investment portfolio during retirement. Your portfolio should shift toward preserving wealth while still generating some growth. This usually means more bonds, dividend-paying stocks, and possibly alternative assets like real estate. Risk management becomes even more important. Historically, we have been told that as you get closer to retirement, it is wise to move the E60-40 portfolio to a more conservative portfolio, perhaps 50-50 or 40-60, and eventually all fixed income. However, how have bonds done over the last few years? Have they performed as advertised? Maybe not. Bonds really felt the impact from inflation and higher rates over the last few years, and inflation might be here to stay for a while. We are seeing an increased amount of retirees who are holding higher allocations of stocks. This might be a reaction to inflation and due to the perception that companies can pass through higher prices to customers and thus protect their stock prices. That said, typically, price volatility is higher for stocks than bonds. One frequently used rule of thumb for retirement spending is known as the 4% rule. It's relatively simple. You add up all of your investments and withdraw 4% of that total during your first year of retirement. In subsequent years, you adjust the dollar amount. You withdraw to account for inflation. We'll cover specific investment strategies in future videos. In summary, your retirement number depends on your location, family needs, lifestyle, health care, housing, retirement age, and investment positioning. Every situation is unique, and at Market Atlas, we'll be diving deeper into each of these topics one by one to help you plan smarter. If you found this helpful, please hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more financial insights.